Well, good afternoon. I'll try to keep my comments brief so we can get right to the companies and you guys can start seeing what they have to say. It's my understanding today that most of the companies that you'll see have participated in the city's ClimateWise program. Last year, our ClimateWise program saw its participation increase by almost 65%, and they collectively did just under 1,000 projects, our participants in that program. ClimateWise is a program that's designed to help companies figure out how they can reduce their energy and water consumption, generally become more green and more sustainable. This is an effort that's been going on now for many years in the city of Fort Collins, and it's our attempt to partner with the private sector to try to achieve our community-wide goals of carbon dioxide reduction and general energy efficiency. In the long run, too, the sustainability market is a market that I think the city of Fort Collins has recognized has a tremendous opportunity as well for innovation, entrepreneurship, and therefore job growth. So I'm excited today to hear what some of our existing companies have been able to do to improve their sustainable practices, and look forward to seeing what they have to say. Thanks.
Yeah, my name's Luke Mcfetridge, and NewMark Merrill Mountain States is a shopping center owner. And our story begins in late 2007 when we purchased, it was at the time Cottonwood Corners, and we've rebranded it to Fort Collins Marketplace. And it's on the corner of Horsetooth and College, and our story begins with the Nate's Seafood Restaurant. And anyone in here familiar with Nate's? Perfect. And so Nate's enjoyed a long history in business, about 24 years. And right as we were purchasing this center, they decided they've had enough and decided to close. So right as we were purchasing the center, we had a big vacant building. It's about 5,400 square feet. And so we had spent the next 2.5 years trying to figure out another user for this building. We had tried to release it as is, and as we went through the process, we continued to find that its age and the cost to retrofit or reconfigure this building was far too great. And so later in 2008, we ended up approaching Chick-fil-A. They loved the corner, they loved the location, the traffic. They wanted to be in Fort Collins and have a freestanding building, but they didn't like the building itself. And so we entered into a ground lease with them, and what that meant is we were required to bring down the building. So in order to do that, there's cost on our part to do so. And since we are a ClimateWise partner, we reached out to John Armstrong and the ClimateWise team and said, well, what's the best way to get this building down? They ended up introducing us to a term that we hadn't heard before called deconstruction. And I had to pull this definition, but it's deconstruction is the selective dismantlement of building components specifically for reuse, recycling, and waste management. And so what we had hoped to accomplish in this is we were actually the first commercial developer in the area to deconstruct a building. So we approached this project with more of a green intensive feel. And so throughout the process, we went to find out first, what can we reuse? So we found blinds, stone. There's a lot of stainless steel equipment still left. We found awnings, glass. So we went through to see what can we reuse. And then second, we went to see what could we recycle. And there's a lot of concrete foundation and a lot of building products that once they were dug up could be recycled. And on the waste management end, as we went through this process, we were able to extract about 7 tons of material that we ended up donating to Resource, which if you haven't heard of Resource, certainly look them up. They're in North Fort Collins right now. But they're a great home for any commercial products or even residential that you would like to donate. We also were able to dig up over 163 tons of concrete, and our total diversion rate on this project was 54%. So rather than a typical contractor coming in, knocking the building down, sending it all to the landfill, we were able to get 54% of it diverted from that. Our goal was 70 to 80%. Unfortunately, we found that there was a vapor barrier under the concrete, which contaminated some of it and didn't get us up to that threshold. But that's another one of those challenges that we found that hopefully someone else can learn from. But to put this in an environmental perspective, the impact of diverting those materials from the landfill resulted in 3 households' annual energy consumption, 60 barrels of oil, and 2,900 gallons of gasoline. But the big thing that made this project go is being part of a ClimateWise. There's a tremendous network throughout ClimateWise of reaching out to other business partners and business owners to really understand what maybe you don't know. And so some of the partners we had on this project were Brinkman, Resource, as I had mentioned, Swingle, who helped us with some of the landscape materials, and Poudre Fire Authority, which you may not think of them traditionally in a green sense, but one of my favorite pieces of this project is when the building was stripped of all the reusable materials and ready to be brought down, we actually donated the building to the fire department and let them go make Swiss cheese out of it and use it for training. So this was a fun project, and again, reaching out to Resource and the resources within ClimateWise really helped make this go.